So, Zainers, what a turnaround that was. The last few weeks we've been talking tactics, and this week we're not going to do that as much as it was a demolition in all areas, and we can finally celebrate a few performances too. In case you don't know, my name's Woody. Jake's got me on to discuss a few standout stats each week, so let's get into this week's Moorabbin metrics. We won contested possessions by 48, which is Frere's worst result under Longmire. We got 38 more ground ball gets, double the first possession numbers, 27 to 54. We had a first possession to clearance rate of 75.9%, which was 20.3 more than Freo. We won clearance by 28, 50 to 22, which is the worst Fremantle has ever done, and the equal 10th biggest differential since that stat has been recorded in 1988. We won the inside 50s by 27 at 61 to 34, which was again the worst they've done under Longmire. We won marks inside 50 by 11 and kept them to 1-1 at halftime, which is their 7th worst result in club history. Honestly, half the reason I'm not going to look back at many plays is because it's hard to narrow down our most and least effective parts of our game when you're that dominant. So let's discuss some of the players individually. Jack McRae was my best on ground with 38 disposals, 25 contested possessions, which is the most of any Saint ever, 16 ground ball gets, 14 clearances with 5 from centre bounce and 10 score involvements. Wilkie was close to getting my best on with 24 disposals, 14 marks, 8 intercept possessions, 7 score involvements, and he kept Tracy goalless for the first time since 2023. Sharman kicked 4 goals too from his 7 shots at goal, nearly outscoring Freo by himself, and probably should have as he missed some shots that I'd say he'd normally nail. With 16 disposals, 9 marks, 5 of which were from inside 50, and he also got a goal assist that netted Mitch Owens his second of 3 goals. Speaking of Mitch, he got 18 disposals, 12 contested possessions, 6 score involvements, 5 marks, with 3 of those from inside 50. He got 4 clearances as well, with 2 from centre bounce, which is pretty wild when you consider that he only attended 2 centre bounces. Last week I mentioned 2 of our younger mids that I thought might get the axe based on their performances, and both bounced back. I wasn't sure if Windhager was going to play in the guts again after getting pulled from CBA's mid last week, and while that trend continued, he got moved to the wing and half back to deal with Brayshaw outside of the guts, and it seemed to work well. He ended the night with 21 disposals, 6 marks uncontested, 494 metres gained, which was our second most behind Naz, and every single one of his handballs was effective. Garcia was the other name I mentioned, and he too returned to form with 19 disposals, 5 clearances, 3 from centre bounce, 19 pressure acts, and a career high of 10 tackles. He topped it off with a rising star nod too. Though he didn't get the most tackles as Captain Jack Steele led the way with 11, Jack also got 22 disposals, 16 pressure acts, 6 score involvements, 4 clearances with 1 from centre, and generally looked much closer to his best as he was getting to the outside more and much more damaging by foot. Speaking of damaging, quick shout out to Jack Sinclair with 20 disposals and managing to make every single one of them effective. And I guess if we're doing shout-outs, we should also mention Hugh Boxall. The debutant gathered 16 disposals, 10 contested possessions, the second most ground ball gets with 8, 6 tackles, 4 stoppage clearances, and he did that with only 59% time on ground. I could almost talk about every player as they all not only did their jobs, but had moments where they excelled. I think Jake mentioned it in his Saints TV Weekly video, but a guy called Jeff from First Use here on YouTube does a good breakdown of what we did this week defensively that worked. Jeff essentially shows how we made sure the nearest man was covered by going one-on-one the majority of the time, and he also goes over how we locked down the stoppages and a few other bits and pieces. So go and check it out, but I want to talk about what we did well offensively. As many have mentioned, it starts in the guts, and obviously we won that by a large margin, and I will come back to that in a moment. But first I want to touch on what we talked about last video. I mentioned last video about the need for creating as many credible threats as possible. I also generally thought we needed to do that by taking the first option that presents, be that short, long, or via the switch. It kind of didn't matter, as long as we took the first opportunity, and I think we did that this week. We had the most uncontested marks at Richmond with 91, and personally, I see somewhat of a trend between our very good matches and our not so very good matches. Also, when you look at possession numbers, we smashed them with 47% and a plus 13% on Freo, which is the equal 5th biggest differential this year. And if you look at the average scores for and against from those matches, we kept Freo to the lowest score of any of those teams. That being said, we were about 20% short of the average scoring margin of the winning sides there, and I think that can be made up by continuing to take the first opportunity when it arises and just building on our confidence. While we did smash Freo in stoppage and centre clearances, we only really took advantage of the stoppages, getting 8-5, 53 to Freo's 2-2, 14. We were also a point below our season average from centre clearances, scoring 2-1, 13, though it didn't matter much as we completely shut down Freo, who failed to register a score from there. While obviously that's an amazing result, and I'll take it every day of the week, if we want to make up some of the difference in scoring we mentioned earlier, yes, better results when we do win the centre bounce would be helpful, but it simply comes down to utilising our chains more effectively as a whole. We scored from 21.6% of our chains this match, and for the season, we sit at about 20.4%. And for the year, Gold Coast leads the league with 25.3% of chains leading to a score. I can't find the quote, but David King mentioned once the teams get about 100 chains to score from per match. So if we could make up the average percentage between us and the Suns, that's basically 5 more scoring chains per match. With just under 51% of our shots being goals, that could mean somewhere between 15 to 20 more points per match, almost making up the difference between our win this week and the scoring from the other teams we mentioned earlier. I bring up areas to improve still because while that was an amazing performance and I want to see those kind of efforts every week, we're still a young side, which means not only might we not get those sort of results every week, we're also far from being a finished product too. Could you imagine if we scored as well in the first half as we did the second? We would have scored 134 points, which even if Freo did the same, they would have only scored 52. For reference, that's basically the same scores as our match against Richmond. Freo might not be an amazing side away from home, but they're not a Richmond level side. They're decent. And it makes me think if we keep improving, we might start making other decent teams look Richmond level in the not too distant future. But that about sums up my major points for the week. If you want to see more of my face, I've got my own channel on Wooden Spoon Data. Video coming soon, but I won't mention it again until it's 100% done. I'll be here every week, though, to go over some of the standout Saints stats. I want to thank Jake for having me. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Go Saints.